So I have a lot of history within the school district. There's some new faces around here since I've been before the board proposing this project. So I thought I'd give a little bit of history real quick. In January 18th of 2018, I wrote a memo to the administration and the school board at that time of my idea to have a Veterans Memorial at the new high school because I heard you were going to build a new school. Subsequently, those high school plans were approved and authority was given to me to proceed with plans for the memorial through the Eagle Foundation as a fiscal sponsor. We began discussions with the high school architect, Crabtree Rohrball, facilities manager Dave Nelson at that time, and the memorial architect, Murphy Dittenhafer, for the location of the memorial. Later, Murphy Dittenhafer first rendition, and it was in the middle of 2019, the estimated cost was $114,000. We had great press, the print media, the TV ran stories about the memorial. We got 2 $5,000 scholarships within those first month, and I thought, geez, I'm within $100,000 of the total cost. And of course, we know what happened in the future. In November of 19, Lobar, York Excavating, made commitments, and Bachman Memorial will provide the granite at their cost. Ascom Electric here in Dover committed to lighting the memorial, and we confirmed with those contractors that they last year that they are still participating in the project. In 2019, the capital campaign brochure was published, which I just previously gave to you. And there's, beyond this being just a memorial, it's going to allow our teachers in the district to add personal names and stories to the historical significance of America's conflicts by incorporating local veterans into their education plans. Teacher will be able to take students to the memorial and instruct them about the various branches of the military and the role that those branches played in the history of America. It is intended that the memorial will enhance interest in genuine civic engagement and public service. Both, we know, are so desperately needed today. One thing I could never have predicted back in 2018 and 19, what was going to happen in 20 and 21 with the global pandemic. Not all projects have done so well coming out of that pandemic. However, I'm most pleased with what we have accomplished post-pandemic. The community, businesses, foundations, and veterans have been very supportive since the project was first announced in 2019. Those 2 lost years, because of the pandemic, have increased our cost now to $180,000. Most recently, and you might have read or seen it on TV, we had a $10,000 donation from NL North America, which is also known as the contractor developer for the Dover solar farm. I have a press release or a release that I gave to you regarding their commitment to the project. That $10,000 has now put our total contributions to $156,949. We have not spent 1 penny of that $156,000 since we started collecting the money. We're looking at maybe changing some of the construction material to reduce our costs to work within these current dollars. And of course, we will continue to raise money for maintenance, and Solicitor Pratt will be drafting an agreement between the district and the Eagle Foundation regarding future maintenance, et cetera. So we're getting there. It's a tough slog with the economy the way it is. And if there's anybody who has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And again, I thank you for your support.
Any questions for Mr. Jacobs? Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Jacobs, could I ask you a question? I'm sorry, it's me. Okay, so the memorial will be erected on the grounds of the new Dover Area High School, which will be located behind the current Dover Area Intermediate School. Is that, am I not reading that correctly? Or?
Yes. When we prepared that brochure, of course, the intermediate school was going to be imploded.
Oh.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And it is to the right of the flagpoles. There's this sidewalk. This sidewalk coming out here from those doors is from the auxiliary gym.
Okay,
emergency entrance, exit. We're to the right of that corner. Baseball field's over here.
right,
When you come in that upper drive, go right by.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have the Skills USA Submarine Team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nolan Smith. I'm the engineering teacher at the high school. I'm also one of the Skills USA advisors. Behind me here is a majority of the submarine team that they've been working all year to build, and we are leaving Sunday for the competition. So they just wanted to come in and do a practice run of their presentation that they actually have to do in front of a panel of judges at the competition as well. And then just give you some more information on the project that they've been working on all year. So I'll turn it over to Catherine, which is our team leader.
Hi, we are the Dover Area High School International Submarine Team, and this is our presentation about our submarine Cormorant. So your first question might be, what is IRS? And that stands for International Submarine Race. Our race is being held in a naval base down in Maryland. It is being sponsored by a foundation called FURE, which stands for Foundation for Underwater Research and Education. And there's going to be 17 registered teams that we're competing against. Teams register from Poland, Canada, Germany. There's even some big colleges like Virginia Tech and Texas A&M competing. And meeting the team, we have our advisor, Mr. Nolan Smith. And then there's me, Catherine Allen. I'm in 11th grade going on to 12th, and I am our team leader.
Hi, my name is John Hartley. I'm the lead engineer and designer. I was just a senior. I graduated, and I'm planning on continuing my education at Penn State main campus for architecture.
Hello, I'm Alex Smith. I'm also an engineer and designer for the submarine team, and I was a Dover alum of this year too. I was a senior last year, and I'm going to Penn State York for engineering to continue my degree in learning.
I'm Chris Brokus, and I too am an engineer and a diver, and I was just in 12th grade. Now I'm graduate. I'm a sermon.
I'm Andrew Merkel. I'm finished my 11th grade year going into 12th, and I'm an engineer and a support diver.
My name is Mateo Owick, and I am in 9th grade, and I am a fabricator and researcher for the submarine team.
My name is Austin Robinson, and I am in 9th grade and an engineer and fabricator.
I'll talk to you a little bit about the overview and goals as a team that we put together for the year. So as a team, we wanted to improve upon the design from our 2019 design, which was the last what we were able to compete in because of COVID eliminating the 2021 competition. And we wanted to collaborate together to produce an efficient human-powered vessel that can compete against other colleges and institutions from around the world. And some of our team goals that we laid out for one another was to compete on the international level. And one of that I like the most was to put Dover on the map. And what we mean by that is to like really show what our students are capable of doing at an international level. And we wanted to obtain new knowledge and experiences such as diving, building a submarine that works underwater, which is pretty cool, and to come to the competition prepared and ready for any unwanted complications.
The hull of our vessel is made of fiberglass, and what's really cool is at the tip is it's made of a fiberglass / Kevlar material, so when it hits something, it doesn't explode. We had two halves that were molded with said fiberglass and put together with an aluminum strip and bonded together. We sanded. I know a lot about sanding. It was terrible. And we painted it till there's no pictures of the final paint job, but it's a white base with blue swirls. In my opinion, I think it looks really cool. And the fiberglass composite is also made to withstand a fair amount of pressure as well as what's the word? I forgot. Okay.
To design the frame, we had 4 design concepts: simulation validated design, aluminum extrusion, 3D printed mounds, and aluminum hull bands. The making of it was 3D printing actual like molds so we could attach like the fiberglass and form it around the molds to our exact size. Then we had to cut the material down to the correct so we didn't have any excess bumps on it. And then we had to put it all together, make sure so it doesn't fall apart in the middle of like what we were doing, like the races. So when we were designing a drivetrain, the way of making the submarine move, we had a few more ideas to improve on. The gear ratio was originally much smaller, so therefore we didn't get much power through per pedal. So we decided to increase that by quite a few. We had to brainstorm ideas for like connecting pieces. We had to engineer the gearbox to where all the gears were holding side so the gear ratio would actually work. We had a lot of obstacles to overcome, but in the end, I think we got most of them, if not all. To make, there was a gear plate that we had to cut out of a plasma cutter so that all the gear, well, one of the main gears would be able to fit onto the bike pedal so we could begin to pedal and the chain would actually work properly. And and we had to make sure everything was more compact and more precise because one of the main problems they had last competition is if they would pedal too hard and too quick, the rod that converted the power to the propeller actually would spin, therefore we would not get any power into the machine.
So there are 2 main control systems of our submarine. One is buoyancy and the other is steering. I'll start with buoyancy, and we really wanted to rely less on foam because the original competition in 2019, we mainly used foam as our entire source of buoyancy. And this year we want to integrate PVC piping as well as release valves to kind of compensate for less foam and less cost. We also 3D printed parts to allow for lightweight abilities, so we didn't have anything else weighing down the submarine, but would still hold up and be able to mount what we need. For steering, it was based on our previous design for 2019, and we made overall improvements just to help our efficiency. Our steering wasn't very good, and we weren't getting the correct movement with our fins. We also incorporated aluminum metal parts to reduce weight but maintain rigidity because we couldn't really use the 3D parts because they'd snap. But the metal parts, while also being lightweight, helped to account for a lot of the force we were undergoing.
The safety systems of the sub include the reflective strips, which allow people outside the submarine to be able to easily find the submarine. The strobe lights also do that job, and the highlighted fin tips allow people to see the edges of the sub. The legible reflective safety labels let people easily read the instructions on what to do if they ever need to help someone out the sub. The deadman switch mechanism is where the person driving the submarine holds onto a switch while they're driving it, and if anything ever happens to them, that they are incapacitated and they need to let go, it would release, send the thing that says rescue on it up to the top, so people can know to come down and rescue them. The multiple access points for the hatch allow people to easily open the hatch to get the person out of the sub if they ever need to get them out.
Okay, so scuba diving. That was incredibly fun. First off, I think there's 4 of us: Catherine, John, Andrew, and I, all are now scuba certified. We started by taking a 10-hour online course, and after that online course, we took I believe it was a paper test. And after that paper test, we got in the pool for, I believe, 3 days, and maybe a week or two after that, we went to a place in New Jersey. I forget the lake's name, and we dove about, what would you say, 40 feet around there, and there's a picture of all of us there, and we are all very, very excited for our part to play tomorrow and as well as in the competition. Testing. We will be testing the size of our diver, if they can actually fit in the submarine, the drivetrain mechanism, our buoyancy control, our steering mechanisms to make sure they all work right, and our in-water testing will be underwater communication with hand signals, steering with pedals, neutral buoyancy with air tanks, and evacuation preparations like the rescue. And
Throughout our process, we've learned many lessons. There's some positive and negative things that we can take away from this, such as finding effective solutions. Throughout our whole process, we found many effective solutions. We had to problem solve and come up with a lot of different out-of-the-box thinking to get everything to work. We also learned how to efficiently work together as a team. Everyone had a job. No one was sitting around. We all had our own respective areas with steering and buoyancy to make sure everything had enough people working on it. We also all now understand and are able to use engineering design process. With those gears you see, we went from a 3D model to a 3D part to test our hypothesis and our prototype to make sure everything would fit, and then we were able to machine it our tour mock. We were also able to manage our fundraisers and material costs. So we all know how to manage fundraisers and how that stuff works, as well as how we can manage our material costs and what else we can use to lower those. And most importantly, we all learned and can take away valuable skills and knowledge that we can take with us to our post-education, whether that's college or right into the workforce. Some things we could definitely build upon is our time management throughout the course of the project, and to learn that failure is okay and only helps you to find the right solution.
For the competition fees, the entry is $500. The hotel pricing is $4,450. For meals at the hotel is around $2,100. And then for the scuba training and equipment, the price of the training is essential, and the personal gear is around $950 per diver, and the offset cost for students with Perkins funding and Lancaster Scuba Center support. There's methods of the fundraising is the T-shirt printing, the gathering community sponsorships, hosting a Baby Shark school event where we played Baby Shark on a loudspeaker for like a week or two, and then yeah. Construction costs, ordering materials is around $1,350 for acrylics, aluminum, and 3D filament, and that's about it.
Here is a list of all of our sponsors that we were able to come by this year. And you can see we have 4 different levels of sponsorship. We have platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, all depending on how much they were willing to donate to us. Some sponsors were pretty easy to come by, like John and Chris just asking their dads, and other sponsors took some more effort of us going to the companies and actually begging them to give us money. And they were a lot of them were willing to learn about the team and give us a little bit to help out and cover. Almost all of our costs were covered by these sponsorships. So that was really nice. And yeah, and we got Mike Reagan. That's my favorite. Look at him. So this is our final statement of the presentation. So the ISR 17 competition has truly tested our entire team throughout the school year. The perseverance, unity, and dedication from our school district's acronym PROUD were raised to new heights. So we can all agree on that. New skill sets such as problem solving and time management were developed, and we all had to make sacrifices to see our project through. All in all, this has been a collection of experiences from which we can take lessons into our future endeavors.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Do you guys have any questions for myself or the team?
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, who's going to be in the submarine, or is it going to be more than one
So,
at a?
so the main driver is actually not here. He's flying home from Chicago right now. But that is Brody Fulton is the first driver, and then the backup driver, one will be Catherine Allen, and then the other one is Bryler Poteet. Bryler is a sophomore, so he'll actually be able to do this competition again when he's a senior.
And how fast will this sub go?
So we're hoping to reach about 4 knots. The world record, I believe, is about 8 knots. And the world record was broken at this competition, I believe, probably 6 years ago.
And what are the divers for then?
So all the scuba diving, the submarine actually fills up with water. It's not a enclosed vessel. So they need scuba diving. The pilots need scuba diving to breathe inside the submarine. And then we also have support divers. Those support divers will be used to get the submarine down to the bottom of the Navy base tank. We'll hold the submarine at the bottom. They have an underwater intercom system, and then they'll announce to us to bring our driver down. So we'll have support divers to help our driver get down into the submarine. And then the intercom system will tell them to go, and then that driver takes off.
And how many submarines race at one time?
One.
Just one at a time.
The race itself is a 100-meter course, as fast as you can go 100 meters. They have a laser timing system at the Navy base for the purpose of world records and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Sure.
You lost me at drivetrain, guys. I mean, this is like, wow. But anyhow, I'm just amazed that they can do that. Blows me away. Okay, did want to say that I was really impressed with the fact that you looked back on the last time and you fixed up what was wrong with the last time for this time. So talk about problem solving. Oh, that was wonderful. And the other thing is, I watched this. I don't know if that was you that loaded it last time that they raced.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed that. I watched a lot of it, and I was just amazed at what was happening in that video.
Yeah, so they have the race itself has a Facebook page, the International Submarine Races, and they put a lot of live videos and stuff throughout the week just to update on all the teams that are there.
So how many of these folks were involved last time?
None.
None.
The competition's held every 2 years. And because the last competition would have been 2021, and because of COVID, they went to a virtual competition. So in that aspect, we decided not to participate or try to finish a submarine at that point. So the last competition we've been at was 4 years ago.
Well, has it been that? I can't believe it's been that long. Well, I've lost so much track of time with everything. Okay, so then our 9th graders probably have that opportunity at least.
Absolutely. So all the freshmen and the sophomores will be able to do it again in 2 years.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, so it's
Every 2 years. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I feel incredibly dumb when these students come in here with such impressive skills and talents and the things that they demonstrate here. I think you all have tremendous futures ahead of you. I'm very proud of all that you've done, and good luck to those of you that are headed out to college in the fall. It was great to see you at graduation. Appreciate you coming in tonight and sharing this with you. I did have one question. How did you name your submarine?
So the original came from 4 years ago. The cormorant is a bird that dives underwater and swims underwater. So we were trying to go with a bird theme as our mascot since we're the Eagles, and we figured what better suiting than a bird that dives underwater.
There you go. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, and our last presentation tonight, Mrs. Weaver, final budget.
Presentation pulled up. Yes. We haven't made any changes since May, so I'll just run through it really quick. Again, just the timeline we have. We have till June 30th to adopt the budget. We're not proposing a tax increase. We are proposing drawing down fund balance. We'll still have a healthy fund balance even with the drawdown. Projected deficit's about 1.6. Here's again just an expenditure analysis of what makes up the entire budget. And just a history too to say that, you know, we did use fund balance most of the year, last 10 years, and we also did typically do better. I will say though that I have trued up like the basic ed and the special ed and some of the other things that may have not been done in the past. So I am hoping that my numbers are pretty true to statement, but any changes that are made will be brought back to the board quarterly so the transparency has been is made public. Commitment to the district, again, evaluate all purchases, the need to fill vacancies, cost saving programs, provide the board with quarterly budget to actual updates, a capital improvement plan, as well as a 5-year projected budget. So is there any questions from May?
Okay, guess there's none. Thank you.
That was easy, thank you.
All right, this brings us to our first public comment period. This is a 30-minute period with 3 minutes per speaker for items on or off of the agenda. I would ask that you share your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. And as a reminder, personnel matters will not be discussed in public. So if there's anybody that would like to speak, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Okay. Board President's communication. We did have a brief executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss some personnel matters. So with that, we'll move into our consent agenda. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve all items under the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Cartwright, would you like to walk down through this since we're sort of on a one meeting a month for the summer?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I'll go through some of the highlights here, and then board members can ask any questions of any of those or anything I don't mention. You will see 2 different River Rock Academy contracts, and those are for reservation of seats for students who need an alternative placement. The one is AEDY, which stands for Alternative Education for Disruptive Youth, and the other is not considered AEDY. And we use these slots only as needed, and they are typically for severe behavior issues. We also have a contract for High Road School of Southern York County and High Road School of York, 2 different schools, also used only as needed. And then you'll also see the Soaring Heights School contract. Again, alternative placements only as needed, and we use those very judiciously. You will see the brand new policy 137.3 on the agenda for the second reading, and the notes have been provided to the board. No changes or edits from us because it's a brand new policy that is required of us, so we are accepting the policy that we received from PSBA. You will see a PACTA, P-A-C-T-A Summer Leadership Conference for Mr. Chuck Benton. All expenses associated with that conference are being paid with the Perkins grant funding. And then you'll see a couple of annual contract renewals, Spring Math, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Journeys for grades 1 through 5, the Aperture Education contract, and the Satchel Pulse contract. You'll see Mrs. Weaver's end-of-year adjustments, budget transfers, and food balance designations. The food service budget as presented in May as well, and the homestead farmstead resolution. The board must adopt the information that will be printed on the tax bill and the data used to calculate the homestead farmstead reduction to include the property tax reduction amount funded through the state, the number of homestead farmstead properties, the allotted funding per homestead farmstead, the calculated property tax reduction amount based on the number of approved properties, the state funding and millage rate, and the millage rate. Of course, you'll see the budget, as was just mentioned, and you'll see a foreign exchange student sponsored through the Rotary Club of York North. I think those are the big highlights for us.
And just for clarification, some of the items that you mentioned are not under consent. They are actual individual items that will be taking
I'm
place
sorry.
in Category 6,
I have
such as the budget transfers, food service budget, homestead, farmstead, and then the final budget. So
my
that's
mistake.
quite all right. Questions or discussions on any of these items?
I have a request and then a question. If I could request to have items 513 and 514 separated out for separate.
513 and 14?
Yep, for separate vote. And then my question is, I don't know if anybody here can answer, maybe Kelly, in regards to the obsolete books. There was a long list of those, and I was just curious if those books are, if there's multiple copies that are still in the library, or if they're going to be copies purchased to replace the ones that are being removed as obsolete.
I think Dr. Hauk might want to answer that one.
So we had one of our librarians who has retired, and she has made a concerted effort to weed out library books. She tells me that the library has not been weeded in many, many, many years. So the books on that list are either books that simply are not being circulated. Kids are not checking them out. They might be very old and outdated, or they might be damaged to the point where they're beyond repair. So I think the criteria they use is if it hasn't been checked out more than once or twice per year for the last 3 to 5 years, then they weed it out. And that makes room for us to refresh our library with newer books. So we are not purchasing books to replace those per se. The librarians are given a yearly allotment, and they spend that money to keep the books refreshed in the library. We are considering donating some of them to the Dover Library if they want them. I believe they have a sale every year where they sell older books, and so we'll be, rather than putting them in a dumpster, we're going to let them have their pick of those books to use for their sale.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. The River Rock Academy, what grade levels does that cover?
K to 12, but we typically don't have too many young students there. That's really, really rare.
Did we have any students this past year?
Yes. In one of my weekly reports, I provided those numbers, and I don't have them in my mind, but River Rock, we had 15 students this past year. One, two, or three at High Road and Sezi, much lower numbers.
Can you tell me, just kind of in a broad spectrum, what qualifies a kid to go there?
Typically a weapons violation or sexual assault, very major infractions.
Thank you.
In regards to that, those children who were placed there, do they then start fresh coming back here to Dover the next school year? How does that work for them then after they've been placed there?
They often start with a 45-day stay, but they do not return to us until their goals are met. So we meet with the staff at River Rock and review progress before they return to us. So that stay could vary in length depending on how they're meeting their goals.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Summer school, yeah, summer custodial work appointments. Do we have enough people to cover that? And what are the ages? And what are the hours they'll be working?
So all of those are current staff members. A majority of them are full-time staff members that are 10 months employees, and they come in mainly just work in June as supplemental. In order to remain at our budget, we hired enough individuals that we would have budgeted for but are unfilled positions. So they're filling in for people as if we would have been fully staffed in custodial work. So they're all 18 and over. They're not student workers. They're current staff members.
Do we have any student workers at all this summer?
We have student workers in our technology team. We have about 4 that came on board with us this year. Some of them are high school students. I believe we have 1 or 2 college students that are going for computer science as supplemental work. And then I just received a list from Mr. Benton and Mr. Fluke for maintenance. We partnered with the CTE students and having them come in and assist maintenance. I believe with some of the like changing out the filters and things like that to help supplement. We're actually down a staff member, a full-time staff member. We've been down them since March, so they're helping supplement with that as well to get some efficiencies done this summer.
Is our lawn maintenance, is that covered by the district or we have an outside contractor?
That is covered by our groundskeeper, our internal maintenance.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, thank you. We will move into the action item category now. Mrs. Weaver had asked for 2 separate items to come out of consent, so we'll begin with those for votes and discussion. It was item number 513. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2023-2024 Aperture Education contract.
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Mrs. Herman, are you able to vote?
I did. I'm sorry, I clicked. Maybe I didn't.
There you go. Motion carries 8 yes, 1 no. Mrs. Whitmer.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2023-2024 Satchel Pulse proposal.
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 7 yes, 2 no. Mrs. Whitmer, Mr. Wolverton.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to our other action items, beginning with the end of year adjustments. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the business office to perform all year-end budget transfers, make all necessary revisions to the district fund budget upon the auditor's final adjustments to financial records, and assign fund balance amounts in accordance with the Pennsylvania Public School Code and Pennsylvania Department of Education regulation.
So move. Second.
Questions or discussion?
Does this have anything to do with the budget? Our approved budget?
approving the 23-24
Yeah.
budget. No, it's really just, it's required for us to do to wrap up PD and PA school code for 22-23.
In relation to the audit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, Mrs. Almond.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the following school depositories for the fiscal year July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund and Members First Federal Credit Union.
So move.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Next is the food service budget. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the food service budget for the 2023-24 school year with estimated revenue of $2,094,726 and estimated expenditures of $2,325,671. And elementary and secondary meal prices will remain the same.
So move.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Just a question with the difference between the revenue and expenditures. How do we address that normally throughout the budget process?
We're going to try to make some additional changes to the a la cartes. So Kelly has some fantastic ideas on, we're working with Tom, working with Jen on how to reconfigure the flow in there to allow for additional a la cartes and for different lines, just making it a little bit more user friendly for the kids. We're doing some things at the middle school, just a lot of innovative changes that we're going to try to make this year in order to really cut costs or increase revenue.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Hearing none.
Is this going to be included in your quarterly presentation, like an update on the food services budget as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2023-24 Homestead Farmstead Exclusion Resolution.
So move.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, and finally, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution of the Dover Area School District establishing the tax rates and approving the budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
So move.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Almond?
Motion carries 6 yes, 3 no. Mr. Emig, Mrs. Whitmer, Mr. Wolverton.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this brings us to our final public comment period. Again, it's a 30-minute period with 2 minutes per speaker for any items on or off of the agenda. Again, I ask that you state your name and address for the record if you would like to come speak. Okay, any other miscellaneous comments or observations from our board members tonight?
I have some. I just wanted to say that I thought the graduation went very well. I did get some negative feedback on that a lot of parents were locked out uh, while the students were coming in. And some suggestions were saying that possibly maybe opening the stadium up a little bit sooner. And the other thing was people were complaining about not enough seats. Maybe that the 10 tickets per family may have been a little much because there was a lot of people not being able to find a seat. Secondly, I did attend York Tech graduation, and we had 15 students graduate from there. So
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm going to tone in on that one. The graduation was so good. And maybe it's because it's my last one. I just thought it was really well done. The young lady that introduced all the students that will be heading to military, how she mentioned that her father couldn't be there today because he was serving. I thought that our valedictorian, Hunter's speech was excellent. Maybe that's why he's going to be a writer someday. It was beautifully written. I loved it. The poems were very, very well done. I have to tell you, the first young lady that did her poem, I watched, I'm sure it was her mother in the audience, filming and crying at the same time. Yeah, I saw her do that. And and I believe it was the young lady, okay, the young lady who introduced Hunter, which really, I had Hunter in school, so it kind of warmed my heart that a child I had was valedictorian. The gal that introduced him mentioned what a wonderful young man he was and how honored she was to be a friend of his. So that really touched my heart also. And I watched Mrs. Miller, biology teacher, as Hunter gave his speech, and she was also wiping her eyes. So I think he meant a lot to her. He's a very special young man. So it was just, everything was just wonderful. The day was beautiful, and the speeches were just phenomenal. We're doing a really good job of teaching these kids how to write and deliver. I couldn't do that. They were just so well done. Yeah, it was fantastic. So anyway, and some of the kids, Chris here tonight, he's a special young man, and another one of the gentlemen up there, Charlie. I know him as Charlie. I know his dad, and I texted his dad and said how I told Charlie. I said, "I'm so glad to meet the face that I hear his dad bragging about all the time." And here, I texted his dad and said, "Oh, I was so proud." I said something to him. He said, "Yeah," he sent me a picture. He took a picture of me shaking Charlie's hand. So it was really a very touching day for me.
Thank you. Mr. Rolhauser, you had something?
Yes, this has not to do with the school, but, well, I have one about the school, but you see I'm not wearing glasses and I can read both boards now. If you have any reservations about cataract surgery, why, don't hesitate. The other thing is, I was really amazed at the Scholastic Awards banquet and the high school graduation of how these kids push themselves and all the different clubs and how they achieve all these things. It just shows that we must be doing something right, because at least some of the kids are getting a good education and they're ambitious. And that's the first thing you need for a student to excel, is ambition. If you don't have no ambition, you just drag along.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
All right. Anybody else?
Yes. Summer reading program. I got hit up. Can you show me where the list of required reading, grade 12 through kindergarten? You know what I'm talking about, the list. If you could.
Anybody else?
Yeah, the couple weeks ago, York Adams Academy had their graduation, and I'd like to thank Dr. Cartwright and Mrs. Fazik for being in attendance as well. They had 5 students that gave speeches, and it's amazing that the 5 students, how they almost gave up their education from the public school, and they attended York Adams Academy, and they did get their diploma, and they were so glad that they did. So York Adams Academy is an excellent institution for students that cannot tolerate coming to a regular school.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Just one more thing to announce there. Prior to tonight's meeting, we did hear from Mr. Perkins, the annual safety presentation, so that's on the public record. So the state is aware that we did get that presentation tonight. With that, our future meeting announcements, we do again just have one meeting in July for the summer months. So July 18th, 2023, we will be in this room at 6:00 p.m. So if there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank